Hello, this is Ruth Pierce. I'm the Relationship Maximizer. I like to help you take your relationships to the next level. And that's all relationships, whether they're personal, professional, friendship, family, romantic. The things we talk about help with all relationships. And today we're going to be doing the fourth session in Love Yourself as Your Life Depends on It. And we have two really big topics to talk about today. One is being in love with yourself, and the other one is the freedom of forgiveness. So let's take off and see where we end up. So the first one, the topic in the book that we're going to be going from is I'm in love. And Camille tells a story about he was walking down the sidewalk with a friend of his and the friend's girlfriend. And the friend's girlfriend was just radiating, just so confident, just so enjoying life. So they were talking about it, and she says, I'm in love. And isn't that true? When we watch somebody that's in love, they do just radiate a glow, a confidence, a self-confidence, because they know they're loved. But then Camille takes us a step further. And he says, why do we have to be in love with someone else in order to have that? Why can't we be in love with ourselves and those same characteristics to flow out? And he is so, so right in that. Love is an emotion. I'm reading some stuff from the book here. Love is an emotion. Love is the feeling. Love is a way of being. That spring in the step, that smile, that openness, can't it simply come from loving yourself? Instead of thinking that one needs to be in love with another to shine, to feel free and shout from the rooftops, look within yourself. You are the most important person to you. It's the most important relationship we'll ever find is waiting and craving to be loved truly and deeply. Be in love with yourself. When we love ourselves, we naturally shine. We are naturally beautiful. And that draws others to us. Before we know it, they love us. And it's up to us to choose who to share our love with. And this is another thing from Camille. Beautiful irony. Fall in love with yourself. Let your love express itself, and the world will beat a path to your door to fall in love with you. And that's what he found out. I want to talk a little bit more, just from my point of view, too, about this being in love with yourself. Now, we've all seen people, and we've even experienced a lot of us about being in love and what that feels like, especially at the beginning of a relationship. But have you ever seen a couple that have been together for a long, long time and they're still in love with each other? You see some of those same characteristics. You see them holding hands, wanting to be close to each other, to spend time with each other. But you also see that love going so much deeper. And that's what I see too, as we learn to love ourselves. It's going to go deeper and deeper and more secure as we go. Fall in love with yourself. It's the most important relationship that you'll ever have. And now for the second topic we're going to talk about today, that's forgiveness. And in the story here, there's actually two different storylines for Camille. The first time he went to this place, and it was off the highway, there was a huge meadow, there were a few trees, and then you could walk further down to see the ocean. He went with a girlfriend. And he had a purpose in going there, you could tell. Because when they got there, he tore a piece of paper out of his journal, gave her an ink pen, and said, "You need to forgive yourself for the things of your divorce." She got really quiet. He said she might have shed some tears because she knew she needed to. And then she looked at him and she said to him, "You need to forgive yourself for not going to medical school." And we'll finish that story here in a minute, but I want to talk to you and I want to say, what do you need to forgive yourself for? And with that thought in mind, we'll continue the path that they took. So they each took a piece of paper and something to write with and sat down among the trees. And they spent time writing down all the things they felt like they needed to forgive each other. Forgive, not each other, but to forgive themselves for. And then when they got done, they took those pieces of paper, they walked down to the ocean, wadded them up, and threw them into the ocean. I'll find my place in my notes here just a minute. And it worked. This is what Camille says. Something released inside, and I never looked back. The regrets went away on their own. So simple, this exercise. And then the next time that he came down here, this time he was alone, and we don't know how much time elapsed between the two. He didn't say. But only 2 trees remained there. He brings out a piece of paper and he writes the date at the top. What am I holding against myself? What do I feel like I screwed up when I knew better? For closing my heart, for hurting more than I needed to, for mistakes, everything. He wrote it all down. And then as he finished, he wrote, I forgive myself for all of it. And in that moment of forgiveness, I write that I am clean and pure because I know I am. That is the first step. Then he hikes to the water and reads his letter out loud and repeats it until he feels it deep within himself. Then he wraps it around a large pebble and throws it out into the water. He hikes back up the hill and again sits down with his notebook and renews his vow to love himself. I vow to love you, Camille, fully and completely and deeply in every way, in all in all actions, in all my desires and being. I vow to love you, Camille. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about in here, and some of it came out in our mastermind today from the different people that were there. I do think that it came out, especially in Camille's second experience, that he read those things until he was ready to let them go and really believe that he had forgiveness. And sometimes we're not willing to let it go right away. You have to read it and read it and read it and read it and say, yes, I'm willing to let that go. In fact, I was telling about my experience when I first read this book a couple years ago. And I did this forgiveness thing, but I wasn't ready to tear it up or throw it in the ocean, so to speak. But after a couple months, maybe several, I was ready to let it go. And it was once I let that go, then I really felt forgiveness, that I could move on from it. But I do think sometimes the deeper the hurt or the need that we feel for forgiveness, that it's a process, and sometimes you need help with that. So whether it be a trusted friend, some family member that you know can help you, or even a professional like a coach, a therapist, a counselor, do that, because that is so important to be able to forgive yourself. Another thing I want to say here, and then we're going to move on a little bit more in what Camille says, and that is, if you are a person of faith, where you believe in God or you believe in a higher power, and forgiveness is part of that belief system. Sometimes we can believe God forgives us, but we have not forgiven ourselves. And that's an important step that you've got to take before you can move forward. This is an important statement, and I'm going to read it a couple times because it's that important. It's the things that we hold against ourselves that weigh us down more than anything else. It's the things that we hold against ourselves that weigh us down more than anything else. I'm going to do a sidebar here because it's coming out more and more in the personal growth reading and teaching that you probably listened to on how important forgiveness is. And it was part of a book that I wrote several years ago too. But forgiveness sets us free. Unforgiveness keeps us stuck. If I have unforgiveness towards somebody else, it will keep me stuck. So forgiveness, no matter what the other party does, is for me. It sets me free. Now, there's another thought out there that says if I forgive you, then I have to allow you back into my life just so like it never happened. And that's not true. You can set boundaries. You can set healthy boundaries, and it depends on the person that is involved, what those boundaries look like. What's going on? It may be a hard, fast boundary. And what I'm talking about here is like a restraining order, even. That would be the hardest one. It can be anywhere in between there. A healthy boundary, unless it's that extreme, needs to be a fence with a gate so you can allow the good in and keep the bad out. And sometimes you just say no to that relationship. There's varying degrees to this, and so you have to take each one individually. If it's a friendship, you can just say, no, this friendship's not working for me anymore, and just say adios. If it's a family member, there may be extreme cases where it would be so toxic that you would need to do that. But overall, you don't want to say no exposure to a family member, but you can limit it, or you can, after you've been in that environment, you can find a trusted friend that can help you process what happened and get you back in the place that you need to be. Trusted friend, professional, whatever it might be. So there's lots of different levels there. But let me go back. Forgiveness takes only one person. If you have hurt me, then it's my responsibility to forgive you because I don't want to stay stuck. But if we want to have a relationship again, a healthy relationship, then you're going to have to accept your responsibility too. And that's called reconciliation, where you get together and you work on a relationship. That takes two. Reconciliation takes two. Forgiveness has to only take one. Excuse my phone call here just a minute. So that's an important piece of that. Forgiveness sets you free. And I want to go on and read you the second one. That is so good. And this is from the book. Only the free can free another. And Camille talks about this. That quote's from him. He says he doesn't understand why we work so hard to forgive others without forgiving the only one we have any power over, ourselves. All freedom starts within. Even if you want to forgive others, you must forgive yourself first. Only the free can free another. And that's actually in the manual, which is the second part of the book, which we're not covering specifically. We're just covering the first part. But there are two sections in that manual that talk about the forgiveness piece. The first one is called First Forgive Yourself. And the second one is Try This, Forgive Yourself. And in that manual, he talks about the steps that need to happen. And I'm going to go through these 6 steps real quickly. Step 1, go somewhere where you will not be interrupted. Choose a place that makes you feel good. Step 2, write down all that you hold against yourself. Everything. Do not hold back. This is your healing. It is sacred. Whatever emotions rise, feel them fully and let them pass. You are worthy or worth the magic you will experience afterwards. Step 3, remember you are a human being. You will make mistakes. Step 4, write down that you forgive. Read the whole thing out loud, again and again and again, until you feel something inside shift. Sometimes you may need to write it again and again. Step 5, take the paper and destroy it. This act is symbolic. Let this action take the paper and all it represents away from you. Let love take it from you. Let it go. You are forgiven by the one person you need it from the most, yourself. In step 6, now renew or rewrite your vow. Only the free can free another. And the other quote that is so good, it's the things that we hold against ourselves that weigh us down more than anything. Until next time, this is Ruth Pierce, Relationship Maximizer.